Hey guys, so today we are looking at, is my audio being picked up? Okay, good. So today we are looking at the battle Kol Kulikovo? Kulikovo? Point is, this is from the Rus-Mongol Wars, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this conflict ends up. Um, Yeah, let's get to it, shall we? If you want to watch the original video by Kings and Generals, the link is down in the description down below. It's always the first link. And if you enjoy my content and want to support me in any way, shape, or form, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It would really help my small but humble channel grow, and I would appreciate it very much, thank you. With that said, and now without any further ado, let's get to it, shall we? Let's look at this battle from the Rus-Mongol Wars by Kings and Generals.
The Mongols' rule over Eastern Europe was harsh, but no other nation has internalized it to the level the Russians have done, as the ostensible Mongol-Tatar yoke entered the collective memory of the Russian people. Although modern historians present a more nuanced view of the Golden Horde's dominance, the struggle against the Khans was very real and bloody. The Battle of Kulikovo of 1380 between the Rus princes and the Horde's leader, Mamai, emblematized this struggle. It is said that the heavy cavalry were the tanks. After the defeat of Nogai, the consolidating reign of Khan Tokhta led to the Horde's peak under the mighty Ozbek Khan. They were made wealthy by the flourishing of overland trade from the Black Sea to China. The Mongols of the Horde remained nomadic and unaffected by the sedentary Rus' culture, a periphery zone for taxation and troops. Instead, the Mongols gradually assimilated with the large nomadic Turkic population that made up the Horde's military, and increasingly adopted Islam during the reign of Ozbek. It was the emergence of a Turkic Mongolian people who call themselves to this day Tartars. When the Khan was strong,
I've heard so much about the Tartars. It's cool. They've popped up, this group, many times in these videos that we've seen several times. Excuse me. But, yeah, so that's their origin, huh? That's really cool. I didn't, that's awesome to finally realize that. Um, alright, that's cool. And yeah, it's cool to see that, like, you know, the rise of, like, Islam. What did the Mongols believe in before Islam? I know certain Mongol, Khanates after the fall of the main Mongol Empire were were Islamic. So, like, I'm wondering, um, what their, like, religious or theological perspective were pre-Islam. That's interesting.
the Rus were kept weak and divided, the princes and Orthodox Church serving to uphold Mongol rule. Tax collection was initially through Mongol Baskaks, but in time, this responsibility was given to the Rus princes, a means for the princes to gain the Khan's favour and its benefits. The holder of the most important princely position, the Grand Principality of Vladimir, at first was decided by the Rus princes, but disagreement between the senior Rurikid candidate, Mikhail of Tver, and Moscow's Yuri Danilovich led to Mongol intervention. Initially, Tokhta Khan chose Mikhail, but in 1318, after currying Ozbek Khan's favour and marrying his sister, Yuri became the first Prince of Moscow to become Grand Prince of Vladimir.
Dang.
Lacking legitimacy in the eyes of the other Rus princes, Moscow—
Wait, I missed that. Let me get that again. Mikhail was accused of killing Khan's sister and assassin. Wow. Wow. That was insane. Yeah, I was thinking, like, holy crap, they broke. Like, that's usually a signifier that you died in these videos. Holy crap. Let me get that again. I'm sorry, I need to get that again.
Khan's favour and marrying his sister, Yuri became the first Prince of Moscow to become Grand Prince of Vladimir.
Wow.
Lacking legitimacy in the eyes of the other Rus princes, Moscow's princes had to rely on the Khan's support to maintain the Grand Princely title. To ensure that favor, the Danilovichi did everything in their power to ingratiate themselves, acting as the Khan's most loyal servants and most efficient tax collectors. In return, the Moscow princes retained the Grand Princely title, alongside the Khan's fearsome military support. By the end of Osbeg's long reign in 1341, it seemed that the Horde's dominance was unchallenged, the Rus princes too weak, the Horde's armies too strong. However, the fall of other Mongol Khanates between 1330 and 1370 unraveled the cross-continental trade the Horde's economy depended on, and it was devastated by the Black Death, which reached Sarai in the 1340s and travelled with its armies.
Dang.
The major urban centres of the Horde were all affected, and up to 25% of the Rus—
we've heard of the famed Black Death many times on this channel. It's cool to finally see, mainly in how it affected Europe, obviously, but it's cool to finally see a different perspective of it and just how the Mongols were being hit by it hard, you know? So yeah, I'm really happy to actually see that in play now, you know?
population died. The Horde's military was decimated and continued to suffer from succeeding rounds of plague.
Dang. Holy crap.
Compounding these woes was political strife. Osbeg was succeeded by his son Tinibeg, soon killed by his brother Janibeg. Janibeg was possibly murdered by his son Berdibeg in 1357.
Okay, all these begs. Oh my god.
Who was killed in 1359 by his brother Kulpa.
Okay, finally, we saw with the begs, but holy crap. They're really speedrunning assassinations now. Holy crap, dude. My goodness. Wait, let me get all that. That was so quick. What the heck?
Osbeg was succeeded by his son Tinibeg, soon killed by his brother Janibeg. Janibeg was possibly murdered by his son Berdibeg in 1357, who was killed in 1359 by his brother Kulpa.
I guess that ends the Beg dynasty, huh?
Who was in turn killed by another brother, Noruz.
Oh, I thought Beg was about to return. I was being like, holy crap, never mind. Dude, this family is trying to kill each other. They're trying to end their own bloodline. My goodness, dude. Guys, chill.
Noruz, the final Khan of the line of Batu, died suspiciously after only a year, setting off a 20-year period of anarchy.
Oh no.
From 1360 to 1380, at least 25 Khans were raised as different branches of the Jochids sought control, and in 1 year, at least 6 Khans took Sarai. Rule was inconsistent, and with the Khan—
Dang, Kings and Generals, you could make a series about this Golden Horde civil war going on. Like, that seems like a lot. You can definitely cover that, Kings and Generals. That seems really interesting. Holy crap.
changing every year, Rus princes were unwilling to make the dangerous trip to the Horde to gain his approval. The fringes of the Horde's territory began to break away. The White Horde in Khwarezm declared autonomy in 1361, while in the west, Lithuania defeated a Tatar force at the Battle of Blue Waters in 1362 or 3, soon seizing Kiev and much of the far western territory. In this turmoil, the general Mamai rose as a major power. As Mamai was not a descendant of Genghis Khan, he could not become Khan himself, instead becoming Khan Maker from his base in Crimea. In the 1360s and 70s, Mamai appointed or deposed numerous Khans, conspiring against others when they took Sarai. In one of these conspiracies, he granted rule over the Grand Principality to the young Prince of Moscow, Dmitry Ivanovich, whose title was taken by Noruz years before. Mamai gained himself an excellent source of revenue in the capable Dmitry. The Rus tribute was of greater importance than ever, with the breakdown in overland trade. Young Dmitry was not passive, and through diplomacy, marriage alliances and military threat, he steadily built his support among the Rus princes. Mamai had use for Dmitry only as long as he provided tribute, so when the Hanseatic League disrupted trade to Dmitry's territories in the late 1360s, Mamai rescinded the patent to the Grand Principality and gave it to Dmitry's rival, Mikhail Alexandrovich of Tver, in 1370. Mikhail proved even worse at sending tribute, and when Dmitry personally presented himself to Mamai to pay homage, Mamai returned him the Grand Princely title. The situation repeated in late 1374, when the Hanseatic League cut silver exports to Novgorod, and Mamai once again gave the Grand Princely title to Mikhail of Tver, but due to plague and Mamai's attempts to control the Volga trade routes, he was unable to support Mikhail militarily. Dmitry had built up Moscow's military and alliances, and in Mamai's absence forced Mikhail to surrender. Confident in his abilities, Dmitry then took his army to the Volga, asserting Moscow's authority as far as Bulgar in 1377.
Okay, we see Dmitry now. Dmitry is smart. He was never going to be content just being under the Mongols' thumb. And we see in the background him building his strength, forming alliances. No doubt the plan from the beginning was to finally break off the yoke of Mongol overlordship, right? So now's the time. He's either gonna make it or break it. But man, if there is a time, now is after the Mongols being devastated by the Black Plague, the constant civil war. If there is a time to oppose the Golden Horde, I feel like now is that time, you know?
If you're living
Mamai was not pleased at this development. In the eastern half of the Khanate, a powerful Chinggisid prince named Toktamish, backed by the Central Asian warlord Temur.
Yeah, Timur was famous for crippling the Golden Horde and really destroying a lot of their strength. So now that Timur's around, yeah, the Golden Horde's days are numbered, guys. This is their fall, holy crap.
Was rapidly growing in power, taking control of the White Horde and moving on Sarai. With it apparent that Mamai was on a collision course with Toktamish, he needed the resources from Dmitry's tribute. In August 1378, a force in Mamai's service sent to collect tribute was defeated on the Voisha River by Dmitry. Details are scarce, but it was the first time a Rus army defeated the Mongol army in battle, though Dmitry gained little from this victory and neither force was large.
Dang, bro. But that's still that's a momentum shift right there. You know, symbolically, the first time that they lose, that's still showing that things are changing and escalating, you know?
The same year, Toktamish took Sarai, threatening Mamai's rule. The latter had to confront Toktamish, but he needed revenue to do that, and Dmitry, as chief tax collector of the Rus principalities, was directly undermining that. It was time for Mamai to confront Dmitry himself.
Dude, Mamai's like, I just need money, and Dmitry's like, heck no, bro, I'm not giving you any cash. So, man.
Over the next year, Mamai organized an alliance with Grand Duke Yagaiwa of Lithuania and Prince Oleg of Ryazan. In 1380, Mamai ordered Dmitry to deliver a higher amount of tribute than ever. The message was a stalling tactic, as Mamai made preparations to march on Moscow with Yagaiwa and Oleg.
Alright, interesting ploy there from Mamai. Forming these alliances and just trying to catch them off guard. That's good trickery, but we'll see if Dmitry is smarter than that.
Dmitry quickly organized all the military forces of the principalities that he could. Surprisingly, most principalities, except Tver, Novgorod, or those aiding Mamai, answered Dmitry's call for aid. The ascendancy of Moscow over the other cities had begun, but first they had to stand against Mamai. We only have Russian sources describing the upcoming war, and according to them, Mamai had 250,000 troops against the 200,000 of Dmitry. However, modern historians consider this a gross overestimation. A more likely figure was 30,000 to 60,000 for Mamai against 20,000 to 40,000 Rus warriors.
Okay.
While Dmitry's army was mostly made up of the Rus aristocrats and levies, with a minor addition of the Lithuanian nobles who controlled the westernmost Rus principalities and Mongol fugitives, the Horde's army was more varied. The Mongols and the Turkic Tatars still constituted the majority of the troops, but a third force commanded by Mamai was drawn from the Genoese, Armenians, Circassians and Rus levies, which meant that he had a considerable infantry force, a stark difference from the armies of Chinggis, Subutai and Batu. In general, the fact that the Rus and the Mongols warred and were neighbours for more than 150 years made their armies very similar.
Wow.
Both sides knew their foe and how they fought. The arms and armour of the warriors were probably very much alike.
Dang, dude. Yeah, that's setting up the stage that this is gonna be a very, at least off the bat, a very close... I'm imagining this is gonna be a close engagement, maybe like, obviously in terms of equipment and experience and familiarity. I can't say that word well. Now they're going to, be facing each other. It's really gonna have to be who's the better commander, Dmitry or, you know, the Mongols. Well, we'll see, man. We'll see.
Dmitry left Moscow in August of 1380 and on the 26th was in Kolomna, where the majority of the Rus host was assembled. He continued to the south, reaching the Don area on the 6th of September, where his army camped. Here they captured a prisoner, who was interrogated into revealing Mamai's disposition. The prince now knew that Mamai's army, which outnumbered his, had been stationed across the river for some time. The Mongols were waiting for Yagaiwa's 5,000 that should have arrived by the 10th, and Oleg's 3,000 expected on the 14th.
Okay, so with that information, Dmitry would have to prevent all of them from linking up, and maybe being the first to strike, right? While he has the element of surprise, while the Mongols are sitting around waiting for their allies. I'm guessing that's what he's gonna try to do.
To Dmitry's shock, the Mongols still didn't know that he was in the area, and although Mamai had the numbers, Dmitry had to attack immediately to exploit the element of surprise and prevent more reinforcements from joining Mamai.
That's what I figured.
Early on the 7th, the Rus princes held a council. Dmitry managed to convince them that they needed to engage the enemy immediately. Later that day, the Rus troops crossed the river to the place called Kulikovo.
Imagine being able
The Rus army was divided into 6 regiments and used fog to form up in a 3-line order. The Sentry Regiment, consisting of light cavalry, was screening the center of Dmitry's force, and most of the Mongol fugitives were here. Behind them, the Infantry Heavy Advance Regiment took positions, while Dmitry's personal retinue, alongside heavy cavalry of other princes, made up the main regiment in the 3rd line, which was protected by the regiments of the left and right hand, also consisting of heavy cavalry. The latter 2 regiments had their sides protected by small rivers and were tasked with preventing outflanking attempts by the Mongol cavalry. In the forest to the northeast of the left-hand regiment, Dmitry arrayed the 6th Ambush Regiment in the hopes that this all-heavy cavalry unit would play a critical role in the battle. Dmitry's army covered the 4-kilometer wide region, and the narrowness of the battlefield meant that Mamai would not be able to use his superior numbers.
Good place to pick the battle, Dimitri. Negating the numerical superiority. I don't know, I'm feeling like Dimitri's gonna win. I'm putting my money on him.
A far cry from the days of glory, the Mongols didn't have any advanced patrols, so Mamai was surprised to see the enemy getting into formation to the north. Still, he was a capable leader, commanding a disciplined army, so it didn't take the Mongols long to start forming up. Mamai's scouts moved forward, screening the main army and skirmishing with the Rus. Behind them, the heavy Genoese infantry comprised the core of the center, with the elite Mongol-Tatar heavy cavalry flanking them. The left flank consisted of the Armenian infantry, with a few cavalry detachments, while the Circassian footmen manned the right flank.
Definitely the most interesting composition we've seen from any Mongol army in terms of how diverse it is. Not only the horsemen, but a lot of infantry and crossbowmen. So this is, in terms of army composition, definitely one of the most unique we've seen from the Mongols. And against the enemy, yeah, looks more impressive than the Rus's. I guess we'll see.
Having the infantry on the flanks and the best troops in the middle probably meant that Mamai knew that he wouldn't be able to outflank Dmitri and had to fight a positional battle. Behind the center was a line of mixed horsemen and foot, with the light cavalry in reserve. Unlike Dmitri, Mamai wasn't in the ranks of his army and took up position on the Red Hill to the east, guarded by the mercenary Genoese heavy infantry. Meanwhile, the Mongol light cavalry was dominating their counterparts, inflicting casualties and forcing them back to the north. By now, the fog had dissipated, and Mamai's vanguard returned to join the main line. Some sources claim that both armies sent forth their champions, who charged at each other on horseback, and that in the first pass they killed each other.
Wow. That is unique. I haven't seen one-on-one duel since the rise of the early Muslim expansion series, where they had a duel every episode, every battle. That's cool to see the duel return. That was cool.
At 11 AM, the army started to advance. Mamai wanted to push the Rus forces north in order to widen the front, hoping that this would allow him to use his cavalry to the fullest effect. The initial Mongol attack easily pushed back the Sentry regiment, forcing it to reform behind the main line. Buoyed by the Genoese heavy infantry and crossbowmen, Mamai's front line now charged the advance regiment of the Rus army. After an hour of heavy fighting, the Mongols managed to push back their counterparts, mostly on the eastern side. The Golden Horde's leader attempted to exploit this by sending a cavalry detachment to attack the left side of the Rus first line. At first it worked, and the horsemen were able to wreak havoc, but Dmitri countered this by ordering his regiment of the left hand to attack the flankers, and the latter retreated after taking casualties.
Wow.
The Rus left was probably willing to advance even more, but Mamai commanded his right flank forward, and the Rus forces stopped in order to avoid being encircled.
Ooh.
By that time, the advance regiment was too battered to continue resisting the Mongols, and its detachments either joined the left and right hand regiments or went behind them.
My goodness. Yeah, the Rus are taking quite the beating right now, though. They're losing a lot of guys. And just look at the vast numbers of them. Yeah, man, they're gonna need to... Dang, this is quite intense.
Main regiment. As the Mongol vanguard was too exhausted, the advance regiment was able to disengage with ease. Allowing the Genoese to catch their breath, Mamai moved his heavy cavalry ahead, and his charge was accompanied by the traditional arrow volleys. The Rus heavy cavalry attempted a countercharge, and the two lines joined once again. It seemed that the initial Mongol attack killed Dmitri, but the Rus leader was alive and revealed himself to his warriors before they panicked, joining the fray.
Oh my god, that freaked me out for a second. I'm like, dude, Dmitri, if he's dead, what the heck happened? But thank goodness he's still around.
As the front was wider now, the Horde units managed to attack the left and right-hand regiments too, engaging the whole Rus line. Although this attack was devastating, and Dmitri's troops started to slowly retreat, Mamai lost the advantage the Genoese provided him, as unlike a bow, a crossbow wasn't able to shoot in arcs, which meant that the Genoese were basically out of the fight.
Wow. Okay, they just became useless there. Wow, dang, that's kind of the break that the Rus needed, though. The Genoese were too, you know, a big deciding factor earlier on, so them being out, best thing that can happen for the Rus at a moment like this, you know?
The Rus prince was able to stabilize the front, but the Mongols had more unengaged troops in reserve. The Armenians, supported by the second line light cavalry, attacked the Rus right from the west, while the Circassians tied up the Rus left-hand regiment by attacking it from the front and side, pushing it back. At the same time, more Mongol troops joined the center.
But we do have this hidden contingent right here from the Rus. I'm putting my eyes on them that they're gonna be the ones to help turn the tide. You see right here on the left of the Rus, this hidden contingent of reserves. I'm thinking they're gonna be the ones to really help change the tide of the battle.
Which started slowly turning the enemy center to the left. This in turn meant that the gap between the Rus center and left was getting wider. Mamai was waiting for exactly this moment. His last reserves were now sent forth to exploit the gap by wheeling behind the Russian center and destroying it. Dmitri tried to block this new threat by widening his center and placing the units which retreated at the beginning of the battle on the left. However, the battered infantry and light cavalry were no match for the fresh Mongol cavalry and were swept aside immediately.
Oh my goodness.
The Mongols now attacked the left side and rear of the Rus center, inflicting massive losses.
Oh my gosh. Okay, now they're moving. I'm like, dude, are these guys gonna do anything? This hidden contingent in the left? Yeah, they need to move now. Like, the Rus are getting destroyed right here.
Now that the Mongol army was committed, it was time for Dmitri to play the ace that he patiently kept up his sleeve. The ambush regiment charged the right flank of Mamai's center, driving it to the west into the main line.
Oh snap!
All Mongol efforts to turn around and form another front against the attackers were failing.
Thank goodness. I was freaking out right there. I was like, dude, the Rus are getting destroyed. But like this ace up the sleeve. Good job, Dmitri. That was quite the patience you kept, because I would have freaked out and maybe committed them earlier. But he needed to wait till all the reserves were committed so he can be the last to use the fresh troops. Genius ploy. Genius.
The Rus moved forward relentlessly. Simultaneously, Dmitri's battered troops were reinvigorated by this development and counterattacked. Soon, it was all over for the Golden Horde army. Thousands died in the encirclement and thousands more in the rout. Mamai fled without ever joining the fight.
Wow.
The Battle of Kulikovo continued for 4 hours and was extremely bloody for both sides. The number of casualties is debated, but it seems that the Rus lost half of their forces, while less than a fourth of the Mongol troops retreated to the south.
Whatever you can create.
For his victory, Dmitri was given the epithet Donskoy, meaning of the Don. While this battle stands tall in Russian popular memory as a struggle for independence, in reality it led to little immediate change for the Rus or to Moscow's standing. The real victor at Kulikovo was not Dmitri, but Toktamish. Mamai raised another army the next year and fought Toktamish on the Kalka River. The latter won and started asserting his authority. Toktamish took Mamai's treasury, army and territory, and informed the Russian princes of the restoration of Mongol rule. The princes sent their congratulations and gifts, but their tardiness in sending tribute and refusal to submit in person infuriated Toktamish.
Oh no.
It was clear that they had grown confident during the 2 decades of strife and needed to remember their place. In 1382, supported by Oleg of Ryazan, Toktamish marched into Russia with fire and sword. Dmitri's forces were so depleted from Kulikovo that he could only flee Moscow, which Toktamish sacked. Dmitri's son Vasily was taken hostage, and the princes once more submitted to the Khan. Dmitri, great victor at Kulikovo, now humbly began minting coins with Toktamish's name on them and sending tribute.
That sucks. The dude wins this amazing battle and immediately is put back under the yoke of the Mongols. That sucks.
Once more subject to the Khan, Dmitri Donskoy died in 1389, only 39 years old. In a small sign of how things had changed, Dmitri's son Vasily succeeded him as Grand Prince of Vladimir, and none objected. It seemed that the rule of the Golden Horde was firmly re-established, and would continue for generations more, with Moscow as the chief vassal of the Khan. Then came Temur.
Yep. Frickin' Timur. He messed up the Horde. Alright, so that's the end of that was a great battle. It's a shame that the immediate effects weren't really felt though. But man, that was a great battle. That had me on that had me like freaked out for a few seconds there. So yeah guys, another great video from Kings and Generals. And I'll see you tomorrow when we watch more Mongol stuff.